Hello, and thanks for joining us for Ohio Voices Informing Energy Choices. Today we are sitting here with Milo of OEFFA, and we're going to be talking Farm Bill, you guys. It is the Farm Bill year. It's very important for farmers and people who like to eat across the America. So, Milo, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization?
Sure, thank you so much. So I am Milo Petruziello. I am Policy Director at Ohio Ecological Food and Farm Association, or OEFFA. OEFFA has been around since 1979. We are a education organization that supports farmers who want to grow in sustainable and organic ways all over Ohio. We also do policy work to support a policy framework that supports that type of production. And we provide organic certification services across a 12-state region. We host, annual conference, farm tours, workshops, all sorts of fun things.
So, given that this is Farm Bill year, could you give our audience just an overview of why the Farm Bill is important, what things are included in it, and why is it stalled right now?
So thank you, Celeste. Thank you. Those are all really good questions. So the Farm Bill generally is, it is this massive piece of omnibus legislation that covers not all, but a very large amount of food policy and agricultural policy in the United States. So major things that Farm Bill includes are things like, it's how we price supports for commodity. In this case, that's like corn, soy, really commonly produced agricultural products is a commodity in the Farm Bill world. Includes SNAP. All of the SNAP funding goes through the Farm Bill. That includes conservation programs that support conservation practices on farms and agricultural easements. That includes research dollars, funding for extension, universities. That includes grant programs for local food systems, and many other things. It is a massive piece of legislation. It is currently, so where we're at today is we have a bill that has passed out of the House Agricultural Committee that OEFFA does not support. We can talk a bit about why. And on the Senate Ag Committee, we have two competing frameworks, one from the chair, one from the ranking member. Chair being the chair of the committee, and the ranking member is the longest, is the senior member from the non-party in power, in this case, the Republicans. They don't have a bill. It's not actual bill text, it's just a framework. We are stalled at this point. Mostly it's about money. There are a number, the big disagreement being that they want to invest, so the House bill, that, as I said, we don't like, would invest about $43 billion with a B, more dollars, into the commodity title. So that's, again, price supports for things like corn, soy, cotton, wheat, peanuts, etc. Largely goes to large monocrop production farms, but limits the Secretary of Ag's ability to make adjustments to SNAP that might, like cost of living adjustments, and eliminates support for climate practices in the conservation title. So it doesn't eliminate those practices, but it opens up a lot of those conservation dollars to practices beyond that, which is a big concern of ours, because we find a lot of small farmers, a lot of BIPOC farmers, they're using a lot of those climate smart practices that are really just practical everyday agricultural practices, like planned grazing, like crop rotations, things like that. And so we want to see those dollars stay focused on that, as opposed to being able to be gobbled up by larger farms. Another big issue is that we don't see a lot of real reforms to accessing things like crop insurance, right? Like we would like the farm safety net works very well for a certain type of production. If you're growing thousands of acres of corn, the farm safety net works well for you. If you're growing a half acre of mixed vegetables, farm safety net does not work for you at all. And right now we've just been in the middle of a pretty significant drought. If the folks who are growing corn, they have a safety net. Like they will be okay. And that's and not to take anything away from them, right? They work hard too. I get it, but if you are growing a few acres of organic vegetables, if you are grazing livestock, right? I mean, pastures were particularly hard hit by the drought. There really are not nearly as many options for you. And those programs do exist, but they're hard to use, and we want to make them easier. So the House bill doesn't do that. The Senate framework, we think, does that. But again, we haven't seen the actual text, so it's hard to fully say how much that would actually address some of our needs.
Well, I think it's so important for our viewers to know that the Farm Bill affects SNAP, and that has a huge impact on low and disadvantaged communities. Commodity farmers, which are large-scale farmers, which we know always does not use the best production practice. And where does that go into? The nutrition of the product that you get at the end of that. And so it's so important for us to continue to advocate for more conservation methods that are going to provide a more nutritious product at the end of its production. Lastly, I want to talk about the work that OEFFA does day in and day out in Ohio and beyond to ensure that we are getting the best practices, the best insurance policies for farmers. I want to commend you guys for the work that you have been doing around BIPOC farming and the intentionality that OEFFA has done with including us and making sure that the platform matches the needs of farmers. We are here at the Ohio Black Farmers Conference, so just talk about the intentionality of that work and how you see that work expanding in the future.
Sure. And I thank you so much, Celeste, for saying that. That really means a lot to me to hear you say that. So, a few things. It is very much a priority of our organization and me personally and the staff that I work with. So we have two other policy staff. They are Lauren Hurdle and Nicole Wolcott. Lauren does mostly state work. Nicole works on Farm Bill and the federal work. And then we also have a number of other staff, not in policy realm, but who do a lot of work specifically for BIPOC producers, like Erica Powell, who's on the planning committee of this particular conference, August Taylor, Jared Pedbone. So that is very, very important for us, that we want to see an agricultural system and a food system that actually reflects the country as a whole and the communities that eat, right? And not just the people who have historically been in a position to be able to grow crops and access the types of Farm Bill programs that we just spoke about, right? So, and that is actually one thing that I think is really key that everyone should be thinking about, is the Farm Bill is fundamentally about the allocation of resources, right? I said $43 billion in commodity. Think about what that $43 billion could do if it was invested in local food systems, if it was invested in BIPOC producers and diversified producers, small producers, right? So, and in order to do that and mobilize that coalition, that means we need to be intentional about working with groups like Ag-Noir, working with groups like BIPOC Farming Network, and working with Black farmers, other farmers of color on the ground, and making sure their voices are heard while we're shaping policy positions. So for example, our Farm Bill platform, one of our planks in our Farm Bill platform is more support for beginning and BIPOC farmers. That grew out of multiple listening sessions that we held around the state. We held them in person, we held them on Zoom, we held some specifically for BIPOC producers, so that we could really make sure that what we're talking about is representing the people we actually serve. That also means making sure that we are including BIPOC voices when we are doing advocacy at the state and federal level, right? So making sure that folks come with us when we go to NSAC National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition meetings in DC. So like Celeste, it was great having you there. I think that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I've been back since. I love NSAC, by the way.
Yeah, and that is and just showing up, being here. And just taking the time to listen and get to know people and hear what they want us to work on. And we also have as an ongoing feedback loop, we have launched caucus spaces. So we have 5 covering different topic areas, and those topic areas are climate change and environmental health. Okay, so caucuses: climate change and environmental health, local and regional food systems, consolidation, farmer viability, and organics. And in all of those spaces, we want to make sure that we have a lens around justice, particularly racial justice, and a lens around serving both urban and rural farms and farm communities, because we think it's really important that in all of those spaces we are building that bigger coalition that serves the communities that actually want to eat local food and continues to broaden who a farmer is in DC, in the State House, in the public imagination.
Well, thank you, Milo. I hope you guys get this great update about the Farm Bill. And when you take this away, remember, the Department of Agriculture is second in funding behind the Department of Defense. So that should just give you an idea of how important the Department of Agriculture is, the amount of resources that they allocate, and how those decisions influence our everyday life, because eating is an essential part of our viability and quality of life as human beings. So till next time, see you guys later. Thank you again, Milo.
Well, thank you so much, Celeste. And please, if anybody wants to participate in the caucus or just has questions about policy, again, I'm Milo, Milo, at oeffa.org. Shoot me an email, give us a call. Thank you so much, Celeste.